Did you know that the dude quoted George Bush the Senior in The Big Lebowski? Or that Tarantino and the Fast and the Furious franchise have a lot in common? Or even how Matrix hinted at a very crucial event on September 11, 2001? Well, you're in luck. In this episode of Obscurate, Cinema Obscura, we will be exploring some of the more obscure references but pivotal ones in popular films like The Big Lebowski, Star Wars, and Matrix, among others. We will be talking what these references meant and how they came about, the stories behind them, and the absolute bananas that went behind the scenes. Let me tell you, this one will keep you hooked. If you're a cinephile like me, you won't want to miss this episode. So, sit back, relax, and join us as we uncover some of the fascinating yet obscure references that shaped some of the pivotal moments in the movies we love and cherish to this day. Before we get started, I want to issue a spoiler alert. For some of these movies that we will be discussing, we will be getting into important plot points and spoilers. Alright, let's get cracking. This scene from the cult classic film The Big Lebowski, the 1998 movie directed by the Coen brothers, is an iconic one. The scene unfolds as the laid-back protagonist, Jeffrey the Dude Lebowski, confronts the wealthy, wheelchair-bound namesake, Jeffrey the Big Lebowski. The tension between the two polar opposites is palpable as the dude's unkempt appearance and carefree demeanor starkly contrast with the Big Lebowski's opulent surroundings and imperious attitude. The dude, having become inadvertently entangled in a convoluted kidnapping plot, challenges the Big Lebowski's motives and involvement, questioning the validity of the entire situation. You may think that this characteristic dialogue is unbecoming of the Duke and his laid-back attitude. And you are right. What's so awesomely random and obscure is that the dialogue, "This will not stand, man, this aggression will not stand," as quoted by the Duke, is actually a phrase he overhears from the popular George H. Bush's address about the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. In the opening scene, when the dude is out buying groceries, he hears it at the counter. The dude uses this against the other Lebowski, trying to represent an authority figure to sound more assertive. There you have it, the uncanny connection between the dude and George Bush the Senior. Our next entry comes from the unforgettable Pulp Fiction, the 1994 film directed by Quentin Tarantino. Who can forget the character of the wolf? Pulp Fiction follows the exploits of unforgettable characters in unforgettable situations. The movie was a cultural phenomenon, and the character of the wolf was the highlight of the movie. Wolf, played by Harvey Keitel, was the fixer who came to take care of the body. His brief appearance of only 10 minutes, exactly the time he said he would take to arrive on scene, only added to the mystique around his character. We are going to talk about one of the character's lesser discussed topics, his car, the Acura NSX. The Acura NSX holds a special place in the hearts of automobile enthusiasts and film buffs alike. The sleek, mid-engined sports car, with its distinctive design and high-performance capabilities, quickly became a symbol of power and sophistication. If you knew Tarantino, you knew he had the pulse of the era. During the 90s and late 80s, the practice of import tuning, modding Japanese cars like Acuras, Hondas, and Toyotas, was a very popular subculture. It was no surprise that the wolf, a fast-talking, smooth ladies' man that knows everything about everything, would be into a popular subculture that made him cool. The NSX specifically has since made its appearances in lots of movies, the more popular being the Fast and the Furious franchise. So there you have it, the incredible connection between The Fast and the Furious and Quentin Tarantino. This next one is a visual obscure reference. The movie Shining, directed by Stanley Kubrick in 1980, was based on Stephen King's novel The Shining. The movie itself is filled with lots of Easter eggs and details that there was a whole other documentary called Room 237 that came out in 2012. That movie is a fascinating look into the wide ranging references in Stanley Kubrick's version. One such example is the recurring motif of Native American imagery throughout the Overlook Hotel. The design choice is believed to be a reference to the hotel being built on Native American burial grounds. This plot point wasn't explicitly mentioned in the movie, but is actually mentioned in the original novel. The presence of these symbols subtly hints at the dark history of the hotel and adds another layer of unease and horror to the already unsettling atmosphere. Our next entry is an auditory one. We are going to deep dive into the sound design of the movie Interstellar. Hans Zimmer, the composer for Interstellar, created a unique soundscape for the film that was inspired by real science and psychology. Let's start with the infamous wave scene, the part in the movie where the crew land on a planet, seemingly with shallow waters with mountains in the background. Only they realize to their dread that the mountains are actually giant waves. The ticking in the wave scene is one of the most iconic sounds in the film. It not only serves as an instrument of dread and waiting, but also serves as a subconscious reminder of time running out. Those ticks happen every 1.25 seconds. This is significant because time is passing more quickly in the black hole than it is on Earth. So each tick you hear is a whole day passing on Earth or in the spaceship that's waiting for them outside the black hole. It is a haunting and powerful sound that perfectly captures the strange and mysterious world of black holes. In addition to the chimes and ticks, Zimmer also created a number of unique sounds for Interstellar. For example, he used the sound of a human heartbeat to represent the sound of planets in the film. This was because he wanted to create a sense of connection between the characters, humanity, and the planets they were visiting. Zimmer's sound design for Interstellar is incredibly innovative and immersive. It helps to create a truly unique and unforgettable experience for the viewer. He was even nominated for an Academy Award for this work. Our next two entries are both from the year 1999, which is such a weird coincidence on its own that these two iconic films came to us on the eve of Y2K. The first entry is from the movie The Matrix, the most visually iconic film of recent history. The Matrix, directed by the Wachowskis, came out in 1999 on the eve of Y2K. There are again lots of references in this movie. The one I found most obscure that took a life of its own is related to 9/11. In the movie, where Mr. Smith interrogates Neo, you can see a picture of his passport. The expiry date on his passport, September 11, 2001. The exact date of the 9/11 attacks. Now, this is nothing but a big coincidence, but you cannot be surprised that this fed into the long list of conspiracy theories around 9/11. Did The Matrix predict 9/11? Are we all living in a matrix and someone's dropping Easter eggs? Waits to be seen. Our next entry in the 1999 club is Fight Club, the iconic and ever quotable film directed by David Fincher. In the film, there is one prop that makes a repeated appearance throughout the film in almost every scene: the Starbucks cup. According to the film's director David Fincher, this references a major theme in the film: the ubiquity of corporate consumer culture. The director went through great lengths to hide a cup in almost every scene. Have fun spotting these on your next rewatch. I'm going to link a video from YouTube that actually captures the existence of Starbucks cup in every scene. Even that is not fully exhaustive according to the director. In our next entry, we are going to be flying into space. Star Wars, the iconic film directed by George Lucas that premiered in 1977, has so many stories associated with its production that they could entail a whole podcast episode on their own. My favorite obscure reference in the Star Wars universe actually happened in the criminally underrated Rogue One that came out in 2016. It makes sense though, considering that this movie most closely relates to the original Star Wars chronology, that there would be lots of threads connecting them. The end of Rogue One obviously is the beginning of Star Wars, the original. Alright, let's dive into the reference. In the original Star Wars, the final attack on the Death Star comprised of two squadrons, the Red and the Gold Squadron. It always struck me odd why it would be those two colors. Originally, this was supposed to be the Red and the Blue Squadron. The blue color, however, clashed with the blue screens being used for VFX, so this was changed to gold. Quick sidebar on blue screen versus green screen. Since you may ask, why did they just not use green screen? Green and blue screens are interchangeably used. Green screen spills more light on the subject, so for more detailed live action shots with people, blue screen is used. It spills less light on the subject. Back to our reference. In Rogue One, in the final battle on Scarif, you can actually see that there is a blue squadron and it gets destroyed, thus leaving them unavailable for the events in Star Wars. It's amazing how they managed to connect that thread and provide closure. This is why Rogue One will always remain in my heart as the third best movie in the franchise. Our final entry comes from the much beloved Wall-E, the Pixar movie that came out in 2008 but is ever so relevant today. My favorite blink and you will miss it obscure reference comes from the opening scene of the movie. You can see that there are wind turbines and nuclear plants built on top of trash mounds to imply that mankind didn't convert to clean energy until it was too late. You may think that trash was stacked on top of these energy sources, but one curious Reddit commenter points out that they are uneven in height, which indicates that they were built after the fact. Now, this is an ever important tidbit considering the situation we are in right now. We are quickly running out of time to adopt a more cleaner and energy efficient sources of power. And that is the inconvenient truth we have to face up to. Thank you for joining me on the cinematic journey through the world of hidden and obscure references. I hope you would enjoy this episode of Obscurate as much as I enjoyed making it. If you have any obscure references you'd like for us to cover in future episodes, please reach out to us on social media or leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more fascinating insights into the world of obscure references. Next episode, we will dive into obscure references in TV. Until next time, I am Styles. Goodbye and always stay weird, my friend.